Hi, my name's TJ Maleprot, or Thomas Maleprot from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Born and raised, 19 years old. 1999 I went in the Army National Guard.
Okay, before you get going there, TJ, I just want to say we're at Ballard's Resort on an all expense paid fishing trip by plus Russ Barbie's been sponsoring it, been helping with it, and go ahead.
Been a heck of a time. So where do you want me to start?
Go enlisted, right?
Yep, enlisted in the Army National Guard, 1999, like I said. Initially to go to school, and kind of a heavy military background in my family, even my hunting camp had.
So when you enlisted, did you get a chance for MOS, or? I
did. Actually, the National Guard unit in my town was a 12 Charlie Bridge company, so basically knew that if I was going to go to school there, that's kind of what I was going to do. And I had some buddies in there, I had some cousins, and my uncle was in there, and so yeah, it was kind of easy to pick my MOS at the time because I was going to school and I could drill right in town. So
where are you going to school at?
That was Lake Superior State University.
Where?
Lake Superior State University.
Okay, yeah.
Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Got a decent hockey team back in the day, won some national championships.
Did you play hockey?
I did.
You were on the team?
Still play hockey, yeah. I didn't play for Lake Superior State. Played some club hockey there, but that's about it.
Okay.
But yeah.
So you went to basic training, I take it?
Went to basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Very hot.
A little humid?
Yeah, a little humid. Went there from May to August, so it was the hottest part of the year down there, so a little interesting there. But
tell us a little bit about your basic training.
I think I was pretty prepared for it. You know,
Pretty good shape?
Yeah, I was in pretty good shape, and I was a hockey player, so I was never really out of shape, so it took me a little bit to get used to it. I was a fast runner, but they wanted me to be... I always tried to fly under the radar, but they always kept making me step up. So I'd run in B group, and they'd see how fast I was, and they said, you're not running in B group anymore. And then I'd get mad because I had to run with all the tall, fast guys. So I was short, but I was quick, but got faster and faster, so I had pretty high PT scores throughout the company, so they kind of knew me from being in good shape, and I was kind of a weightlifter before I went. So
I got to ask you, do they still do like the run, dodge, and jump?
No.
Never heard of that one?
Any of that.
Yeah.
No. Run, dodge, and jump?
Yeah.
No. Is that something they did in your basic?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't remember any of that.
150-yard man carry.
We would do a little bit of that. We actually did that with our A group, the running group. We'd do a lot of like carries and wheelbarrows.
Trying to find somebody your same size as.
Yeah. I had to carry a lot bigger guys sometimes. But it was a good time. It was a good time. I got out of there. I went in pretty good like weightlifting shape, and then we did a lot of running and push-ups, so I came out pretty skinny, at least body fat wise, not skinny, but yeah, got in the Guard, and I continued the PT stuff and enjoyed that. Actually went back to school later for exercise science, so it kind of became something I like to do. I still am a personal trainer now. So
did you go right to AIT then?
I did.
Never went home in between?
Were, what do they call it, OSIT, one station unit training. So you went to basic, and then you went right into, you graduated from basic, but then you had 1 weekend off and you went right into AIT.
Did you go anywhere?
Nope.
Didn't go St. Louis?
Spot.
Or,
nope. Same exact spot. Sat in the same barracks.
I mean, you had a weekend off. You didn't go anywhere with you?
I think my parents came down, and I went kayaking on a local river and went shopping somewhere around there. It might have been St. Louis. Went to like Bass Pro Shops and stuff like that, but nothing crazy. Bought some golf clubs with some money that I saved from not being able to spend
Would you take your hat off? It's kind of a shadow.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine. Well, it is a little sunny.
Looks good.
So I might be blinking a little bit, but yeah, I went to St. Louis, and I went through AIT. I think it was like 5 weeks of engineer training. We cross-trained as 12 Bravos, which is learn how to blow up the bridges, and then 12 Charlie learned how to build them. So
let me move over here. We'll be out of the sun a little bit.
Yeah.
Turn your chair this way.
You want me to turn?
Oh, you're not looking into the sun.
Yeah, there we go. Maybe even a little more. That'll do
There
it.
we go. So 12 Charlie.
Yep, 12 Charlie for, I guess, 18 years of my service. I got
12 Charlie is what?
12 Charlie's a bridge crew member, bridge engineer, combat engineer. So we were trained to. We built multiple bridges. We had fixed bridges like the MGB and the Maybe Johnson and stuff like that. And then we had what they called the ribbon bridge, which was basically floating bridge parts that were carried on trucks. And we could pull down to a river and launch those pieces into the river, and the boats would pick them up, connect them all together, and you could either build a raft that you could use as like a shuttle to cross.
So this is stuff you did in AIT.
That's stuff I did in the AIT, yeah. So you drove
Learning how to do it.
Yep, you drove jet boats, you dropped the stuff in the water, you learned all the latches and how to remove everything in the order that you had to do it, and you trained on all that stuff so that when you got back to your unit, you knew how to do it to a point. So most of it was done, most of the training's done back at your unit when you start drilling with your unit. But yeah, so they give you the tools to know at least somewhat of what you're doing when you get back. But,
So what did your parents think of you being in the National Guard? Because you're in for 6 years, right?
What's that?
You're in for how many years?
23.
Oh, that's right.
I was in for
when you
23.
first enlisted, how many years was it?
I enlisted for, so it was 8. So it was 6 and 2. It was like 6 active, 2 inactive at that time. So I enlisted for 6 years.
So you were regular Army for a while?
Nope. It was the National Guard. So you're in for 6 and 2. But I mean, it was just your 1 weekend a month back then.
Okay.
Yeah. Until I got deployed to Iraq in 2003. I mean, that was active duty. So we were basically active.
So you enlisted in '99 and 2003. You're sitting in Iraq.
Yeah, actually 4 years later. So I enlisted, like I said, to get, I had like 13 family members that have been in the service. 2 grandfathers in World War II. One was a 18-month POW. Plane had to land his plane in France and got taken prisoner over there because they were out of fuel and would have had to crash in the English Channel. So he was a POW. So and then my dad was a 2 tours Vietnam. My uncle was in Vietnam. My other uncle retired from the Guard. Let's see.
Long military history.
Army, Air Force. My sister's a retiree from the Army National Guard active duty. My other cousin was there. My other cousin Jerry he unfortunately passed away 4 years ago in a motorcycle accident, but he was a Marine in Desert Storm. So yeah, just a huge family background. So my parents, like, when I decided to go in, it was kind of
Expected almost?
Expected, I guess. Maybe not even expected, but I don't remember them saying anything to me about it being a bad idea or a good idea. It was just kind of, they didn't have the money to pay for school, so they probably were kind of clapping behind closed doors like, yes,
Yeah.
he's paying for his own school. But went in there, and family was proud of me. And at first it was kind of, I just signed up not knowing what I was getting into, and you're just going to school and everything. And to be honest, if you would have asked me in 1999 if I ever thought I would have put 23 years in the service, I would have told you you're crazy. And I also thought after 6 years I'd be getting out, but after a deployment to Iraq and the camaraderie you get from hanging out with those guys every weekend, 1 weekend a month, and
You hear that a lot. You hear that a lot.
it's hard to leave. It's hard to leave. It's actually funny because hanging out with my buddies this weekend, it's amazing how much you miss just seeing them every day. I live in Minnesota now, and I grew up in Michigan, and I don't get that a lot. So this is really good for us, and it's been enjoyable.
So let's talk a little bit about going to Iraq.
Well, I think
How'd you get there?
January 28th of 03. We hadn't invaded Iraq yet, but we kind of knew something was coming. And I got a phone call from my platoon sergeant, and he said, pack your stuff. You got 24 hours to get to the armory, and pack like you're not coming home. And
Was your unit?
And
was
I
the whole unit or just you?
whole unit, everybody,
yeah.
pack your stuff and pack like you're not coming home, and we didn't go home. I left that weekend for some training in Grayling, Michigan, and I think we went down for a week. We came home for a day or two and got some more stuff together at the armory, and then I was down to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and I was...
Do any training there? Or?
To me, you know, we trained for 2 months, but I think the craziest thing is getting that phone call and being in college. You know, I was in college. I was in a 4th year of a paramedics and fire science, and I was about to graduate. You know, I had good grades in all my classes, which wasn't something that I was really good at in high school, but I really enjoyed what I was doing with the paramedics. So to have to walk into my paramedic courses after 2 years of training, and I was a semester into my final year, where one more semester I was going to be a licensed paramedic, and then I got called out. So I had to leave for a year, and that was really tough. You know, that was pretty tough leaving that. And
to be that close and
be that close to finishing, and I did not graduate with a paramedic degree when I came home. You know, had some rough times when I got back, and tried to go back and finish it and just didn't complete it. But it definitely, I guess I don't regret that part. It just guided me on the path to where I'm at right now, and I'm doing fine. But I guess when you look back at it, it was a lot of time and effort to put into college for 4 years and not get really anything out of it. But I also wanted to go on the deployment and serve my country and get a combat patch, which I did. So, but I had a rough time with that for a long time when I was in Iraq. We went to training and everything, and I was always really frustrated that I wasn't able to finish school. And I had an older buddy that kind of just looked at me and said, "Hey man, you're here for the duration, and there's nothing you can do about that." So you can. Were
you PTSD then?
I wouldn't say PTSD. I would say I struggle with it pretty bad. Like being drug away from that without having any control over it was pretty tough. I mean, it hung around me for a while. So.
Were you kind of pissed when you had to go?
I was pissed. I was pissed. I was not pissed that I had to go and serve. I was just pissed that I had to leave then, and the circumstances and not being able to finish what I was doing, and it was cumulative. Like every other curriculum is like semester by semester. Well, paramedics is like 2 semesters. The grades you get at end of the first semester don't matter, because if you don't pass the end of the semester tests, the cumulative tests, and all the hands-on testing, then you don't get a license and you don't move on to your externship. So that's what happened with me being gone for a year. I came back and tried to finish it, and I was gone from it for a year. So
let's talk a little bit about Iraq. What did you get to do there?
Well, once again, we got a call saying in Kentucky there we're training and staying in these little barracks, abandoned barracks in Kentucky. That's where they put the National Guard. Asbestos signs everywhere. But we got a phone call saying you're leaving at 4 a.m. tomorrow and pack your bags. So we most of our duffel bags were packed because we knew we were going at some point. So threw everything in the vehicles and hopped on a big plane, and the next day we're landing in the hottest place I could ever imagine.
That's dry heat, right?
Yeah, it's a dry heat, yeah. Like if you set your arm on your leg, like that at 9 o'clock in the morning, your leg would be wet and your arm would be wet. Full uniform. So we landed in Kuwait. It was hotter than heck. First night, I think it was like 4 a.m. we finally got to sleep on these like wood floors, and we're leaning up against a rucksack. And I remember the first night, so like 4 a.m. the Scud missile attacks went off because we were invading Iraq at the time, and it's like whoop whoop, you know, and these alarms go off and nobody knows what it is because we first night there. Everybody starts going crazy and they're running around like ants, and my buddy's standing over me with a gas mask on, and he's like, "Dude, get your mask on." And he runs out, so we had to run out to these bunkers and put our mop suits on, but we got through that. They shot down the Scud missiles, and I was just kind of like, whatever, if it hits us, we're done anyways. But
nothing you can do.
Nothing you can do, so I just went through it. But yeah, got interesting. We got in country. We're kind of at these camps like Camp Pennsylvania once we got into Kuwait, and the Army's there, and everybody's running around doing their thing, and Marines and the Army are invading Iraq at the time, and we're waiting to see when we're going in there. And so yeah, trying to figure out what our job's going to be, because there's only 2 rivers in the country of Iraq, and we're bridge engineers. So
Yeah.
found out they were basically didn't have much for us to do, so they were going to make us just do odds and ends jobs and just be stuck over there. So we got attached to the Marines. First Marine Expeditionary Force took us on, and we dropped all our bridge parts in the desert, and we did missions. We would take supplies from Kuwait off the Marine base, load up on our trucks on flat racks, drive up into Iraq, and then we would drop off the supplies to their bases where their troops were, and then we would drive to these weapons caches and load up the munitions and then drive them back. So lots of trips up towards, not quite to Baghdad, about 75 miles south of Baghdad. We go up and back daily, every other day, and hotter than heck, no air conditioning. You get 2.5 liter water bottles in the morning, frozen stiff, and by the time you thawed out the first one and drank it, the second one was so hot you couldn't even drink it.
So what's
yeah,
the temperature?
120, 118 in the. I remember the one day it was 118 in the shade. And the weirdest thing is, like, your body acclimates to that, so it's like 118 in the shade. I mean, it was hot. Your full uniform, Kevlar, flak vest. You got all your ammo. You're carrying a weapon, so that all sucks. And then you sleep at night. And we had if we were in Kuwait and we had the air conditioners in there, and there were these huge air conditioning units like mini splits, and you'd be sleeping in there. It was 88 degrees, which to me sounds really hot right now. Like, I could not sleep in that right now. 88 degrees over there. I was in an army green sleeping bag, cuddled up, like freezing. Because from 120 to 88 it was such, talking 30-degree difference from the daytime.
It's a good thing you were young and in good shape.
Yeah. But we were sitting right by those air conditioners, because, man, oh man, when you didn't have them, it was hotter than heck. So yeah, we did those missions for a couple months, back and forth, 6 months or something like that, and then didn't do any bridging missions, which kind of sucked for us. I was just a saw gunner on most of the missions, on a Humvee. And then I ended up driving the Humvee and being the saw gunner because my driver got hurt, or got sick for 2 weeks. So I was driving the Humvee with my gun laid across my lap. Yeah, just did those missions back and forth. And then the last 3 weeks before we went home, we went and built 700-foot, like Maybe Johnson double wide, Maybe Johnson bridge up at El Kut across the Tigris River. So I was one of only 30 people that got to go up there out of 144. So that was kind of cool. Go build.
This is in Iraq?
Yep, 700-foot footbridge. So we were up there patrolling the river in the jet boats, and we were driving them, and we would pull these big pontons up the river, and then the Navy Seabees would work off ashore, and they'd build this bridge, and they'd slide it out, and we'd bring the pontons up, set it down, weld it, and then we'd slide it out, and we'd bring another ponton up in there, weld it to that, and you'd have 2 pontons and a section of bridge. And then we bring the bridge pieces up the river, and we staggered them all over the upper river and anchored them, so that if anybody tried to blow them up, they couldn't blow them up all at one time. Like, if you started building the bridge at one time, they could just blow it all up. So when we got everything built and we got the near shore and the far shore parts of the bridge done, we just brought those pieces of the bridge down piece by piece and added a piece to each side until we got it all built, and then we just brought it together in the middle and pinned it and welded it. And my buddy told me that the last time he was there, it was still there. So
Really?
Yep, 03 till now. So
on all these runs you did you guys get hit quite a bit, or?
no, we were actually, I think the reason that we didn't was because, number one, we had just invaded Iraq. So there was, like, when I first went into Iraq, there was almost nobody. Like, the one town right on the Kuwait border, these kids were trying to rip stuff off our vehicles and stuff like that. But it's a funny story, because our commander told us to fix our bayonets, like we were going to stab these kids or something. But that was interesting. But yeah, we would go through there, and the Marines would tell us that you go through Nasiriyah and some of these towns where other groups would get hit. But we just never got shot at a whole lot. And I think it was because of the way we treated the people when we went through there. Like, we would give the kids food, or we'd trade them for something, or we'd toss them parts of our MRE that we weren't going to eat, you know. So sooner or later, the kids would just come running out to the road, and I think they were smart enough to recognize the insignia on our trucks. So when we were coming in, people knew we were coming in, but they would tear up the Marines or some of these other groups that would come through there. That, I mean, I guess I can't say it because I wasn't there, but I don't think they treated them quite the same when they came through there. So they got shot up a little more. So we got, you know, we had an RPG go off that blew out the windows of a truck and almost blew up a fuel tanker. We had kids walk into the convoys, trying to stop the convoys. We had a kid throwing rocks that I thought was possibly a grenade or something like. So we ran into some opportunities where, you know, had it gone the other way, it could have been bad, but luckily never really got tore up.
What's your rank now?
I retired as staff sergeant.
Staff sergeant. What's your rank while you're in Iraq?
I was a E4.
E4.
Yep.
So you moved right along.
I got ranked pretty quick because I think I was an E3 going into basic because I had college. So when you have college courses, you get ranked a little quicker right away. And then I got my E4 basically exactly 1 year after that because of my college, because I kept going when I got back. And then I got E5 within a year or so of that. I don't even really think it was because I was as good of a leader, but I was the only one that they knew they could send a NCO course and pass the PT test without having to try on it, because everybody else was getting sent there and failing it and getting sent home. So I got that ranked pretty quick. And honestly, the only reason I probably wasn't a 7 or an 8 when I retired was because I did military funeral honors for 8 years. And
really?
Yeah.
That's a long time to do that.
Yeah. Somewhere between 800 and 1,000 funerals. So, but
was it at one place or? So
I was the NCOIC of funeral honors for the whole Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you travel around quite a bit.
I traveled the entire Upper Peninsula, Wisconsin. I went to Southern Michigan quite a bit. So
they pay you to do that?
I was active duty for 8 years, so yeah.
I
was active duty, so I got my paycheck every 2 weeks, and if the funerals were there, I went and so I was in charge of basically finding the Army funerals, making sure that they were being covered with military honors, and then I was...
Because you went and folded the flags?
Yep. I was in charge of training the troops and getting their uniforms ready to look super sharp and professional at the services, and then I would put them through the training to do the two-man flag fold and the playing of the taps and stuff like that in the right order and how to do it in order to make the flags come out right. And then I went to school, 40-hour course, so that I could do full military honors, which was like the casket carry, the firing party, the playing of taps, and the 7-man flag fold.
That'd be for like officers?
Yep. Officers,
dignitaries,
retirees, killed in action. So yeah, if you had a full military honors, we could go, and at one point for like 2-3 years, just my team alone, if there was a active duty, killed in action, or a retiree that died, my team in the UP could go do a full military honors with just my guys. So I sent them all the 40-hour course. I trained them on my own.
Thank you for doing that. That's a tough job.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's still sits with me pretty hard, but you know, like talking about it or thinking about my dad being a Vietnam vet and folding the flag for a Vietnam vet, you know, or just seeing, you know, a grandpa and seeing his grandkids, and you know, and then I had some flags that I folded for sorry.
Take your time. It's got to be tough.
Yeah, I don't talk about it much, so I guess I don't usually get like that. Folded my cousin's flag, who died in a motorcycle accident.
Well, you said you talked about that last night, yeah.
But nobody else, I wasn't going to let anybody else fold it, so.
Yeah, it'd be a tough one.
Folded my buddy Sean's dad's flag, and I served with Sean and his sister and his dad in Iraq. They were a family, the dad and the brother and sister. I served with all three of them. Dad was a Vietnam vet, and then he went back in the Guard so he could deploy with them, and then he died of a
Wow.
heart attack. So, handing that flag off to Sean's mom was tough. Dave Lesk, another guy, knew him really well, actually family of mine, and he passed away in an accident, and I folded that flag. But going to their hunting camp and seeing that flag on the mantle and knowing that I was the one that did that for him, and
That tears you up, don't it?
it actually gives me a good feeling.
Yep.
I wouldn't let it. I would have rather not had anybody else do it but me, and I was good at it, and I could keep my composure when I did it, and I was there to do that job and make sure that that was the memory that they had. And a lot, so many people would tell you that's the one thing they remembered about their grandpa's funeral or dad's funeral or whatever was what we did. And if that's what I can give them.
I've been at many of them, seen you guys coming in to do the flag folding.
Yeah.
That's quite a ceremony.
Yeah, I put a lot into making sure that every single one of them was done to the most professional perfection that we possibly could, and I took a lot of pride in it. So when I when I got medically discharged, I was pretty hurt that I couldn't do that anymore. I kind of hit a back injury for 17 years, so I didn't get kicked out. And then when I told them about it, they just kind of kicked me to the curb. Sat there for 2.5 years waiting on our medical discharge, and didn't really give me. Were trying to kick me out with any benefits, and so
Really?
yeah. I had to
After 23 years? You had 20 years, you should have got something.
Well, I would have got I had 9 years active, but I would have got a national. They were trying to just retire me, like medically retire me, and not give me the benefits, and actually look into my injuries and see why I was getting pushed out. Like, they basically said I couldn't ride in military vehicles, couldn't carry load-bearing equipment, couldn't do this and that and the other thing. Didn't want me to do certain parts of the PT test, so they just said, you're a level 3 profile, you're going to get medically discharged. I said, okay. Well, I can't do all that stuff in the military, and they got to kick me out, but they were going to give me 10% for my back. And they weren't even going to give me that until I went and had a lawyer dig up the paperwork from when I was at Fort Campbell when I got home from Iraq. So I had to dig and prove these injuries that I had on active duty to even get my little bit of disability. And really all I wanted was the medical part, so if something happens to my back, my kids and my wife are covered and have medical coverage. So it was my 23 years was awesome for about 21 years, and the last 2 years I felt like a number that just got kicked to the curb. So
what's your occupation now?
I am a certified personal trainer through the National Strength and Conditioning Association.
Really?
Yep. I went back to school.
You're still in damn good shape, that's for sure.
Yeah, I try to. Luckily, my son's 14, and I work out with him, trying to get his butt in shape. So I train high school kids and hockey players at the gym in War Road, and train my son. Try to train myself a little bit and try to keep active so my back doesn't kill me, and so I don't die too young.
Well, TJ, we're just about running out of battery, but
yeah, that's all right.
I want to thank you for your long service, and thank you for doing this interview.
Well, thank you very much for having me.